You are listening to Based in Fact, a true crime podcast. Join host Lisa O'Brien and Kyle Evans as they examine America's most infamous true crime cases as they were established in our courts and the basis for the decisions of the appeals courts, not the court of public opinion. Here's Lisa and Kyle.
Welcome to Season 3 of Based in Fact, a true crime podcast. We're your hosts, Lisa O'Brien and Kyle Evans, and this is Episode 13, State of Texas versus Linda Anita Carty. In Part 3, we'll conclude our look at the case against Carty, who remains on Texas death row after multiple unsuccessful efforts to win a new trial in state and federal court. We'll talk about the alternate suspects Carty is blamed for the 2001 kidnapping and murder of new mother Joana Rodriguez, whose body was found in the trunk of a car rented for Carty by her daughter, and whose newborn son Ray was found, thankfully unharmed, in the back seat of Carty's daughter's car, which was found at the same place and the same time as the rental car. We'll also talk about Carty's multiple self-serving letters professing her innocence and complaining about her persecution by prison and other officials. Then we'll conclude with her second successive state post-conviction writ, request to file a successive federal habeas claim, and her latest request for appointment of new counsel, allegedly to assist with presentation of a petition for clemency. And good afternoon, Kyle.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Pretty good. Just running behind as usual today.
No, it's a nice day. When we woke up, it was like 65 degrees. I think fall might have actually come. So I'm
Oh,
still
really?
pretty shocked.
It's not here yet, although we had horrible rain that it wasn't heavy, but it never stopped. It was just constant. But today it was very bright and sunny and pretty, but I think it's still a little bit on the warm side down here. We're a mite further south.
Yeah, normally it doesn't get, I mean, this is a little early. I was worried because it didn't get super hot until later in the summer. I thought, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, it's going to be hot in October, but maybe fall has actually arrived.
Oh, fall arrived in northeast Texas?
Yeah, in the Dallas area.
Okay, yeah. Well, Dallas is almost kind of central east.
Yeah, kind of just like North Texas. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, good for you. And I want to apology to the listeners. Last week's episode, I am still learning StreamYard, and so I did not play the correct intro or outro and did not realize my mistake until I was preparing the episode to upload. And by then it was too late for me to add the intro or the outro to it. So everybody just got several minutes of silence at the beginning and the end of the program. So I apologize. You can just fast forward. So, all right. Well, let's get back and finish our look at Carty's case, and um, then we'll be done with her, and I can't wait to get to the end because we have an exciting plan for our next episode 2 weeks from today. As always, we start with the victim, who was Joana Rodriguez. She was born in 1980 or 1981 in Guanajuato State, Mexico. Her father is Raymond Rodriguez. Her sibling sister is Erica Rodriguez. I don't know what her education was. She worked for a water purification company, probably in the Houston metro area. She married Raimundo Cabrera circa 1999 and had one child, Ray, who was born on May 12th, 2001. Her injury cause of death was suffocation, either by a bag over her head or positional asphyxiation. Our perpetrator is Linda Anita Carty. She was born October 5th, 1958 in St. Kitts and Nevis, which are in the Leeward Islands, Lesser Antilles of the British West Indies. Her father's Alfred Carty. Her mother's Enid Carty, who also went by the name of Webster. She has 6 siblings: Boyce, Sonia, Verna, Iceland, um, Yvette, and Clarence, in no particular order. She has a high school education. She had some college or community college and studied pharmacology. She also claimed to have been a teacher, but that seems a little unlikely because she didn't have a degree in education. She had a common law marriage with Jose Javier Corona, who was born June 6, 1970. So Linda liked her men young. She had a daughter, Javel Jobert, born September 10th, 1979, with a allegedly married policeman out of wedlock. She is a compulsive liar, a con artist, manipulative, and has delusions of grandeur and delusions of persecution, as we'll see from her letters coming up. She has prior crimes involving theft in 1983, auto theft in 1992, possession of marijuana and aggravated robbery in 1994, and unauthorized use of a vehicle in 1998. Her accomplices in this crime were Josie Anderson, Chris Robinson, Carlos Williams, Gerald Anderson, Marvin Caston, and Zebediah Coombe, and likely his brother, whose name escapes me at the moment, Armand, I think. Her victims were Joana Rodriguez, 20, Ray Cabrera, 4 days old, Raimundo Cabrera, 28, and Rigoberto Cardenas, age unknown. So, got a little bit different summary of the crime for everybody. Of course, which this occurred on May 16, 2001. On Saturday, May 12, 2001, Raimundo Cabrera and Joana Rodriguez became the parents of a baby boy named Ray. The next evening, which was Mother's Day, they took the baby home for the first time. Cabrera and Rodriguez lived in an apartment number 36 of the Shady Glen Apartments in Harris County, Texas. Cabrera's cousin, Rigoberto Cardenas, shared the 2-story apartment with them. Cabrera had taken time off from his construction job to be with his new son. He planned on returning to work on Wednesday, May 16, 2001. At approximately 1 o'clock a.m. on May 16, 2001, men carrying guns broke down the door of the apartment. Someone grabbed Cardenas, who was sleeping on the floor, while others went directly to the bedroom upstairs. The gunmen demanded drugs and money from Cardenas. Cardenas told the men to take the $80 out of his wallet. The men seemed unhappy with that amount of cash and kept asking for drugs and money. One of the gunmen struck Cardenas in the head with a pistol. The gunman yanked a phone cord from the wall and tied Cardenas' hands and feet. The gunman searched the apartment but did not find any drugs. While the men were in the house, Cardenas heard a cell phone ring. One of the men answered it and said, "We are inside, and do you want it?" That's from the statement of facts. The men on the phone then yelled, "She's outside, we gotta go." The man put a couch over the bound Cardenas. Cardenas heard someone go upstairs. Some people came downstairs, and the baby was crying. Cabrera testified at trial that he was awakened by a loud noise. 2 men with guns then burst in the bedroom. The men demanded money. Cardenas had saved $1,000 to purchase a car for his family. Cabrera told the men where he kept his money and asked them to take it. The gunmen took all the cash. Unhappy that there was not more money, the gunmen became more aggressive and began binding Cabrera's head with duct tape.
Jeez.
As the men covered his nose and mouth with tape, Cabrera struggled for air and tore a breathing hole in the tape. The men began striking Cabrera with their pistols. After beating him, the men bound Cabrera's hands and feet with duct tape, leaving them hog-tied face down on the bed. Cabrera heard one man say, "We are going to take the baby and the mother," and then tell his wife, "Take your baby and let's go." Cabrera heard his wife get off the bed and leave. Cardenas freed himself and then cut Cabrera loose from the duct tape. Both Rodriguez and baby Ray were no longer in the apartment. Cardenas and Cabrera ran to a neighbor's apartment and called the police. Police officers responded to the call of a home invasion. An initial canvass of the apartment complex returned no useful information. When interviewing Cardenas and Cabrera, the police were struck with a key difference between the episode at the apartment and other home invasions. The purpose of the robbery did not seem to be acquisition of drugs or large quantities of money. The crime focused on facilitating an abduction. The police suspected that the gunman kidnapped Joanna and baby Ray for money and waited for a ransom demand. Later that day, a resident of apartment number 40, Florencia Myers, related to the police a suspicious conversation she had with Carty on the day before the kidnapping. Carty rented apartment 38 of the same complex, which was across the sidewalk from where baby Ray was abducted, though she had recently moved out her belongings. Petitioner had been living with Jose Corona, who the record refers to as both her boyfriend and as her husband. Myers told the police that on May 15th, Petitioner was sitting in the parking lot of the apartment complex in the driver's seat of a rental car. Carty waved Myers over and asked her to sit down. Myers noticed that Petitioner had a baby carrier in the car. Petitioner first asked if Myers had seen Corona. When Myers responded that she had not, Petitioner told her that she was going to be having the baby tomorrow. Myers knew she wasn't pregnant and asked what she meant. Carty then used her two hands and she touched her stomach, gesturing that she was pregnant. Petitioner, who had previously discussed relationship problems with Myers, told her that's why she's very upset over Corona's attitude, because Corona knew that this baby was coming and he just kept not acting right. He drinks a lot and it made her upset. Throughout the conversation, Carty kept patting her stomach to show that she was pregnant. Petitioner told Myers that she was going to have the baby tomorrow and when she had the baby, she was going to bring the baby over to show Myers. The whole thing sounded strange to Myers. After speaking with Myers, the police ran a check on Petitioner's name and found that she made a police report on May 13, 2001. Petitioner claimed that she had been assaulted by Hispanic males in their apartment complex. The police contacted Petitioner and asked if she would return to her former residence because they were trying to show her some pictures of individuals who might have assaulted her. The police, however, did not intend to question Petitioner about the assault. They wanted to know if she had information about the kidnapping. Petitioner initially agreed to meet the police at the Shady Glen Apartments, but later they met at a McDonald's parking lot because the police were concerned that the media circus at the apartment complex would endanger their investigation. Petitioner arrived at the parking lot at around 4:20 p.m. in a vehicle that was not her daughter's car and was not her rental car, being driven by a friend. The police told Petitioner they wanted to interview her about the kidnapping. Petitioner said that she saw news accounts of the crime. Petitioner agreed to meet the police back at the Shady Glen apartment complex. When they reached the apartments, police officers told Petitioner that they had information that she wanted a baby. Petitioner then gave permission to search her apartment. After finding nothing incriminating at her apartment, the police asked Petitioner to accompany them to the station. Petitioner said that she would after she spoke to Corona. Petitioner told the police she was a snitch for the DEA. For a short period, several years before, the Houston Police Department and the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, used Carty as a confidential informant after she had been accused of auto theft and impersonating a federal agent. She was taken off the books when she was arrested during a drug sting. Although she often described herself as a confidential informant, Carty was not an authorized government agent. Petitioner had occasionally contacted DEA agent Charlie Matthews with information, but she had not provided anything useful in some time. Petitioner had repeatedly told Mathis that she was pregnant and even told them that she had given birth to a baby, but Mathis disbelieved her. Mathis at times felt that maybe she wasn't as truthful as she should have been. Mathis was surprised in 2000 when Petitioner told him she was pregnant because he didn't even know that she was married or was thinking about continuing a family. In 2001, she told Mathis that she had given birth to a baby boy, but Mathis was confused because Petitioner said the boy was older than he would have been had he been born in 2000. In January 2001, petitioner told Mathis she was pregnant again, but was having problems in her relationship with Corona. In a conversation with petitioner and Corona, Mathis told Corona that with her being pregnant and about to give birth, that it would be kind of ridiculous for them to even consider a breakup at that point. Mathis testified that when he mentioned the pregnancy, Corona started laughing. I mean, it was like, what baby? What are you talking about? He seemed very confused, and it confused me because I was wondering, what was going on. On May 16, 2001, petitioner called Mathis and asked him to come to the police station. The police also called Mathis and asked him to help interview petitioner. When Mathis arrived, Carty told the police that she wanted to speak with him alone. Mathis repeatedly told petitioner that she was in big trouble and encouraged her to tell the police everything. Mathis urged petitioner to divulge any information she had about the location of Rodriguez and baby Ray. Petitioner told Mathis that she had given 2 cars to someone and that she may have made a mistake because she felt that these people were involved in the kidnapping of the woman and the baby, and that she knew where these people would be at. Petitioner told the police that she probably could lead them to the victim and her child. Petitioner took the police to 6042 Van Zant Street in Houston. Van Zant Street was a well-known place for selling dope. Approximately 12 police officers went to the Van Zant address. When the police arrived, they found a man standing beside a running black Chevrolet Cavalier that belonged to Carty's daughter. The police officers ordered the man to the ground. Inside the vehicle, they found baby Ray alive and wrapped in a blanket. An ambulance took baby Ray, who was in good condition, to the hospital. Inside the black Chevrolet, the police recovered numerous items used to take care of a baby, such as a diaper bag, a diaper changing pad, a pacifier, several baby bottles, baby formula, baby clothing, a car seat carrier, a baby stroller, and baby bath items. A live .38 caliber round was in the baby bag. The police also found a rental car at the Van Zant location. When the police opened the car door, they could smell an odor of a dead and decaying body. The police found Rodriguez in the trunk. Her body was in the fetal position with duct tape around her hands and feet. A plastic bag was wrapped around her head. The police then arrested petitioner and several other individuals at the Van Zant Street address. Subsequent police investigation confirmed that petitioner planned and orchestrated the kidnapping and murder of Rodriguez because she wanted a baby. In the days before the murder, petitioner repeatedly told people that she was pregnant and going to deliver a baby boy. At the same time, she gathered around her a group of individuals who would help her kidnap a newborn. Trial testimony created an incriminating timeline showing how petitioner's story about being pregnant coincided with the kidnapping of baby Ray. This timeline culminated in the murder of Joana Rodriguez. Because the timeline of events is relevant to the finding of guilt in this case, the court will outline the timeline below. And that's the timeline that we talked about in last 2 weeks, part 2. And Kyle apparently has lost his connection. So I'm apparently flying solo for the time being. Very interesting. All right, so I guess it's just going to be me talking to myself. So then we have Carty's claim to be a DEA confidential informant. So I think it's important that we go over the DEA record for Carty's participation. It begins in 1991, on June 6, 1991, with a personal history report. And pardon me a moment. I'm going to go ahead and try and text Kyle real quick because I want to see what's going on. It notes that Carty is given the name Belinda Webster, which has been so long, I don't think it's going to hurt to reveal that. She was born 10/5/58. She's listed as a British citizen. Her national origin is listed as British. Her occupation is listed as a clerk. And pardon me, okay, sorry about that. I just texted Kyle and he's just trying okay. All right, he's trying to get back, so I'm going to try and do two things at once, monitor his efforts and um, continue. She had a Texas driver's license that was set to expire in 1994. Her prior criminal record included a shoplifting misdemeanor in 1982. Her mother was listed as Enid Webster. Her sister was listed as Sandra Williams. Webster has the ability to obtain intelligence, make introductions, and undercover purchases for members in the organization. Webster also has intelligence on Nigerian heroin traffickers. NCIC state and local and Harris County computer checks indicate that Webster is not wanted at this time and is not on probation or parole. She was advised regarding Section 6612 of the DEA Agents Manual, and that personal history report is signed by personnel whose names were redacted. And we're dealing with federal agency, so there's going to be a lot of redaction. And I'm going to pause this for just a moment and try to help Kyle get back online. All right, folks, we are back. We had some technical difficulties, so we ended the recording and we're starting the recording again. So there are going to be some hiccups on this episode. The joy of live recording. And no,
we are back, and we are not going to unplug the headphones ever again.
No, Kyle is not going to touch anything. He's on his hands. And all right.
Do not unplug the headphones at StreamYard.
Nope. Well, that could be your computer.
That is true.
When you it probably could be actually, because I know when I came into the studio for the new studio, I didn't turn off my camera. And when I tried to turn off my camera, it disconnected all of my devices. And so I had to leave the studio, turn off my camera, and come back. Or leave the studio, come back in, and turn off my camera, and then enter the studio. So it's better than Zoom, but there are hiccups. So this is, as we were doing, we're going to just pick up where we left off, the DEA record for Linda Carty's service as a DEA informant. And personally, based on the notes from this personal history report, I believe that she was selling a story to the DEA. That she was telling them she had all these connections that she didn't have in order to try and get money from the DEA. And because she looked at this as an opportunity for employment. And also I have heard, although I didn't find any official record, that it was suspected that when Carty was working as an informant for the DEA, she was actually taking out the competition for herself or her boyfriend at the time. That was the whole purpose of her being a confidential informant. So, next report of an investigation dated April 12th, 1992. It documents transfer of Carty on March 12th, 1992 to the Houston Field Office Intelligence Division of the DEA. And then there's a report of an investigation, June 9th, 1992, status of threat, references made to a threat against Carty. She was provided $1,000 to relocate. The Houston office requested the closing of the threat case, and that was also signed by two redacted personnel. Report of investigation, March 1st, 1993. Kyle, don't mess with your headphones.
No, did I disappear again?
No, but I heard a little noise.
Oh,
that
goodness.
was
okay.
worrying. Okay. On March 1st, 1993, Carty was deactivated from the DEA. Since the last reporting date, which is redacted, and I don't know if the report was there or not, has not been able to provide Houston Field Division with any new intelligence or been able to initiate any new investigations. Since the informant's establishment as a regular use informant, she initiated the following investigation, which was redacted. She'd been paid a total of $4,660 since September 29th, 1991, and her handler concurred with the deactivation, or someone in the field office concurred. On September 13th, 1993, there's a second deactivation report. Since July 1st, 1993, she had been deactivated. And that was with the concurrence of the group. So her deactivation was 1993, or her first deactivation, and her initial date was 1991, which, as we'll see, according to Linda Carty, the story is different and it changes.
Right.
On October 4th, 1993, she was reactivated as a cooperating individual. I'm guessing she got caught with drugs, and so she sold them another story of being able to help them with an investigation.
So did she ever provide any helpful?
No, from what I found in the DEA reports, in fact, I'm going to not even continue going through them. She never provided any actionable information. She was paid $4,000, $1,000, and got money for purchase of evidence in the amount of $150 once. But no, she never really provided them with anything. There is finally the last document in her DEA file is a teletype dated March 1st, 2002, which simply documents her conviction of the capital murder of Joana Rodriguez, and says that she was registered as a cooperating individual between July 1991 and December 1993. At the time of the crime, she was not a DEA informant. So the records of the DEA, she was not an informant at the time she murdered Joana Rodriguez.
All right.
Okay, so now we get into the alternate suspects who have been named by Linda Carty and or her family members or friends or attorneys or advocates. She gave the name Carlos, I believe, in her interrogation to either one of the officers or to Charlie Mathis on May 16th or May 17th, 2001, when she was being questioned. And that may be referred to Carlos Williams. So I know last week I said something about her never naming any of her co-defendants, and I was mistaken. Because Carlos could refer to Carlos Williams. Because his name was Carlos, and he's identified as Carlos in some of the documents. Then 2001, 2002, in the letter that she got Sarah Hernandez to write for her to exonerate her, it was allegedly from someone named Oscar, and it stated that Robinson and Combe borrowed petitioner's car, placed the baby and the victim in her cars, and framed her because of her race. We talked about that last week, I think. And they are also African-American males. She's an African descent because she's got American, she's got U.S. citizenship. So I guess she's technically African-American. I know it's something interesting that I noticed on some government forms. Hispanic people are considered white, even though they're brown, and they consider themselves brown.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I think that seems right.
I had never seen it before, but because it's race and ethnicity are two separate things.
Right.
So they are white racial, but Hispanic ethnically.
Yeah, I guess they consider that because most of them are either, indigenous or, from, the European Spanish settlers of the New World.
Well, no, and I think that really actually does incorrectly come from the European colonization. Because if they're indigenous, they're not white. They're not European.
Yeah, because I think some folks will say they're indigenous, but
So
the average, I don't know, non-indigenous Mexican, I guess they classify them as white because they're kind of European Spanish descent.
Yeah, and a lot of like Argentinians and Chileans and Peruvians, I think, are very. They kind of look down on the indigenous and they consider themselves only European.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at like, even on Mexico on like their television programs, a lot of the actresses are blonde, blue-eyed, like they look more like English than even Spanish.
Yeah, but they're doing that in Korea too. If you've seen the Korean boy and girl bands, they have blonde hair and white blonde hair that look like friggin' Targaryens. So anyway, even though, Asian blonde genes do not run in Asian gene pools. The letter also claimed that Robinson and Combs set her up to harm her brother, who worked for the DEA. That's Charlie Mathis. Because she says, I always called Charlie Mathis my brother. Hernandez copied the letter. When the scheme fell apart, petitioner threatened Hernandez. Then in 2002, in preparation for her trial, Carlos told Dr. Jerome Brown, who was evaluating her as a psychological expert, that she loaned a rental car to Carlos Aviso, who had a 4-year-old boy, and that Oscar Vila was with Aviso when he picked up the car. She stated that Aviso never returned the car, and she spent an entire day looking for it. She claimed that she rented the hotel room because she moved out of her apartment, that she left her cell phone in the car she loaned to Aviso, that she borrowed her daughter's car and returned to where she last saw the rental car, and that the rental car was there. She said the police contacted her while she was waiting at the car. She said she believed she was being set up for the incident offense because she was a confidential informant. Now, this is where, the facts as told by Linda Carty don't work, because she did not go to the police in her daughter's car. She went to the police being driven by a relative of Corona's and left her car at Van Zant Street, or left her daughter's car at Van Zant Street. Then on October 1st, 2001, a man named Guillermo Arvizu, his wife Danielle, their unborn child, and daughter Haley were murdered in a home invasion carried out by Christopher Brian Torres, Steve Charles McKinney, and Latasha Simmons. The murder occurred in Fort Bend County, Texas. Torres and McKinney were tried separately. Torres was convicted of 2 counts of capital murder on November 18, 2002. McKinney was convicted of 1 count of capital murder and 1 count of murder and 2 counts of capital murder on April 29, 2003. Both men were sentenced to life, and their convictions and sentences were affirmed on direct appeal. They both remain in the custody of Texas Department of Criminal Justice, where I believe they will be eligible for parole in the 2030s. Because I believe at that time a life sentence was 38 years. There was no life without parole. Now, Guillermo Arvizu was a drug dealer, and he was under investigation by the DA at the time of his murder. Remember the names: Christopher Torres and Stephen Charles McKinney. After 2002, according to interviews given by Carty and her daughter, they returned to the lie that Carty was still working with Charlie Mathis and the DEA in 2001, investigating Arvizu. Arvizo was the target of DEA investigation, but there's no record that Carty was ever involved. The story is that Arvizo set Carty up to take the fall for the kidnapping and murder. The person referenced in Carty's 2005 letter is likely Arvizu, who was murdered along with his wife and one of his daughters, an unborn child, on October 1st, 2001. Later in 2017, Arvizu is named in a letter most likely authored by Carty with the use of a Spanish to English dictionary, which I fondly will call the pigeon letter. So now we get to the letters portion of our show. Ha ha.
The pigeon letter sounds exciting.
Yeah, the pigeon letter is going to be fun.
Huh.
Because first I'm going to start off with pointing out with how bad the alleged Spanish speaker was at writing this letter. So we start off first with a letter on June 19, 2003 to Judge Davies, who had presided over the criminal trial. So this is after Carty was convicted, while she was pursuing her direct appeal and initializing her first state post-conviction writ. It references a prior emergency letter with a complaint about Wentz, her appointed counsel for the state post-conviction claim. She says she was an appeal, that letter was an appeal for help outlining several unfair, unjust legal behavioral and ineptness of my writ 11.071 appointed counsel Kurt Wentz toward Linda Carty's appellate case. Also, I addressed the huge ongoing illegal stealing and possession (parentheses taking) of my legal notes, drafts, attorney mail taken unlawfully and illegally by officers of TDCJ institutions. She alleges that there was an incident on June 17, 2003, saying that occurred, quote, today, when the date of the letter is June 19th. So, I mean, even with it on paper, this dumb woman cannot keep her life straight. Where she claims that officers returned, quote, bench warranted mail, including personal papers. She refers to herself in the third person as Linda Carty, which is so charming. She claims that officers made misrepresentations about the, quote, non-legal paperwork when they returned it, but not what those misrepresentations might have been. And that she wanted a ranking officer to be present to confirm her allegations, but none showed up. She claims she can prove her allegations because her mother and attorneys have duplicates of all the mail in question. She says she doesn't want her legal papers floating around TDCJ. She claims that their actions are a breach of attorney-client court correspondence. She is writing a letter to Judge Davies because, quote, she needs to bring such a crucial illegality to your immediate attention. And she wants to document for Linda Carty's legal objections to such an assault to be on the record. This woman has a penchant for melodrama.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, that's an understatement.
And when you read it, the way she writes things, the way she phrases things, and it's deteriorating as the years go by because, you know, it's deteriorating as the years go by because even this didn't make a lot of sense and there's not a lot of specifics. Liars don't do specifics well.
Right. No, exactly.
So they keep it general. They made misrepresentations when they returned this. If it's non-legal mail, they actually do have a right to open and inspect your non-legal mail.
Right.
If you got caught disguising non-legal mail as legal mail, then your legal mail no longer is subject to protection. Because if you're just going to write legal mail on it, you know, and say, oh, it's legal mail, you can't touch it, then, you know, that's going to backfire on you.
Right.
And then we have a second letter to the British consulate and the district court, dated January 8, 2004. It references enclosures that weren't included on the court record. She accuses again the Mountain View personnel of opening and reading her legal mail, saying that the mail originates from attorneys' law firms is, quote, conspicuous to the naked eye. Alleges this is the third time her legal mail has been opened by Mountain View staff. And then she goes on to say, quote, repeat with smug sarcasm the content of my last legal letters, the legal matters discussed with my attorney during legal visits. I guess they're taunting her with the information they allegedly gained from this illegal opening of her legal mail. And she writes, I'm extremely perturbed at the blatancy of these officers. And please, these illegal practices have to end, as Mountain View staff have no legal authority to pre-open my legal mail and give that mail to other officers to deliver to me. That is wrong. So,
She's
okay.
very perturbed. I like that.
Now,
it's very perturbed.
Interestingly enough, this is a claim her legal advocates have never made. And there's no reference or evidence of any complaints to the administrative arms of the Department of Criminal Justice. So, and she's complaining to the British consulate and the judge or the court that really has no control over the TDCJ. Do complain to the TDCJ, write a letter to them about the specific issues at Mountain View. And in this letter, she also copied attorneys, courts, British consulate, and FBI. And these are the delusions of grandeur and persecution for Linda Carty. These just totally show that.
All right.
Okay, now, in this next letter, January 28, 2004, we learned that Linda Carty could very, very, very easily be taken out by a spoonful of Nutella. She claims in this letter that she has a medical allergy to peanut butter and chocolate so severe it's life-threatening and deadly. Or a Reese's peanut butter cup could take her out too. Or Reese's Pieces. E.T., phone home. She says she experiences chest pain, constricted breathing, and painful and itchy hives. Like hives are normal and not painful for anybody else. And not itchy. She claims breathing is the worst, making it impossible for her to call or speak to call for help. Claims she's deathly allergic to eggs. Claims she will be instantly dead with no hope of resuscitation if she eats.
And where is she writing these to?
She's sending this to the judge again.
Poor judge. He has to read all these, I guess.
No, I think what happens basically, and I know a lot of pro-criminal people are going to have a fit about this. I think what happens is it goes to the judge sends it to the clerk's office, and the clerk puts it in the record.
That makes sense.
She wants an alternative diet that doesn't contain the allergen. She claims the warden continues to threaten me to continue feeding me with eggs, peanut butter, and chocolate prepared deadly food trays. Claims warden wrote her saying that she will eat what the kitchen prepares. Claims the warden is sending her verbal and dietary threats daily on paper. Claims the warden fabricates responses to inquiries about the situation. Claims the food trays she served contain eggs, peanut butter, and occasionally chocolate daily, willfully, and illegally, deathly. Says the staff insist on deadly games. States that allergies don't evaporate with someone's wishful thinking. Claims she's been allergic for longer than 4 years. She's been allergic for 45 years. Claims the allergies become worse as one ages. And then she says, in melodramatic fashion, please be aware that if I die, I did not commit suicide. I was starved to death or killed deliberately through eggs and peanut butter ingestion forced upon me daily by warden. I'm going to redact that warden's name. Defiant tyranny. So that is, and she's copying senators, media, Amnesty International courts, and her attorneys. But again, this is another thing that has never been raised. And I would think that if it's a legitimate allergy that's documented within her medical records, that it would be a very simple thing for her attorneys to send a letter to the administrative people at Department of Criminal Justice and have them tell Mountain View to stop giving
they're
her.
they're pretty on top of things these days. I'm pretty sure if she had an actual diagnosed condition.
So there's a longer letter that's even more melodramatic, and I don't know if I'm going to read it word for word or if I'm just going to kind of summarize it. So anyway, okay, so now there's also a website for Linda Carty, and it has open letters throughout the years. There's the first one is dated December 25th, 2003. And Linda says, any format of assistance is going to be greatly and warmly appreciated. Also, pen pals of polite and character. I am receptive to correspondents who are interested in wholesome friendships. I'm not into risque vernacular. I'm looking forward to resuming my business. I am not going to apologize to anyone for my legal exoneration and my much awaited legal freedom. It is now a definite reality. Oh, what a new year I'll enjoy. And this letter was also translated into German. Second open letter, April of 2004. Not everyone that's sentenced to death row is guilty in all caps, and the state of Texas does not like to admit to their mistakes. I am the victim of the prosecutor's theatrical drama and the continued efforts to the state to saddle me with the false accusations and the character assassination. But the truth is about to be told, and the state won't be able to ignore the pertinent factuality. Until next printing next month, I'll update the court's proceedings. Second open letter, longer and more whiny, goes into the mail situation a little bit more detailed, claiming her mail is either missing or lost or returned to her foreign correspondents. That when she discusses the problems with the warden or superior officers, quote, I am treated as though I am an imbecile or a retarded nincompoop, and talked about to other inmates by the ranking officer.
Wait, did she actually use nincompoop?
Yes, she did.
That is a great word. Like, nincompoop really should be brought back. It's even hard to define exactly what is a nincompoop,
Yes.
but you know exactly what it is when somebody says it.
My mother's father, that was one of his favorite derogatory words, nincompoop. And then when my uncle was in the Marines, we got knucklehead.
Nice.
And that's another good one, is knucklehead.
Yeah, knucklehead's a good one.
My sister also has brickhead. She uses brickhead. That's a stubborn person.
I've never heard that one.
That's a stud. I think that's a down the bayou. I think that's a down the bayou, a Thibodeau thing.
Right.
Because when she lived down there, now that she lives down there, she's calling people brickhead. And I love it. I use it too. Anyway, so I am treated as though I'm an imbecile or a retarded nincompoop and talked about to the other inmates by the ranking officers. Such degradation is designed to break me mentally, and the expected results haven't been forthcoming. So the verbal attacks of my British attorney's legal prowess has been set. You still haven't. A mind game. Now there are American attorneys, and they have not been able to describe those, so they are now going to use the work capable program. Apparently, she wanted to do a work program and was denied and doesn't think that was fair. And she's, again, this is a very long letter with a lot of, she claims that she's being falsely accused and of the crime and falsely persecuted by the prison officials, and they're trying to kill her with her foods that she's allergic to. And this is a long, whiny letter. Several paragraphs on the peanut butter allergies. And then this is toward the end. She's closing the letter, thank God. You know what? I am tired of the abuses, and I am not going to take the continuous and targeted punishments that they have been subjecting me to endure, all because I won't lay down and play possum for them anymore. I am not white, but the majority of my ancestral family tree, Caucasian. Yet bear my ancestry, my British ancestry and heritage is causing the entire institution to treat me with utter contempt. Then I was told by the warden that I need to get with the status quo and I guess adapt the trashy, vulgar, lewd habits and behavior of the other offenders that choose to indulge and behave in the like fashion. Now she's housed with like Darlie Routier, Melissa Lucio. So I don't know what she's talking about because she's on female death row. Um, Yet I am prejudged for the behavior of the others here, and then I am ostracized because I won't indulge. The truth will be told, and the entire country will become aware of the wrongful sentence that has been illegally thrust upon me by the state of Texas. What are those prosecutors and the police officers so afraid of having exposed? Why, y'all keep your ears and your eyes attuned to the television and newspapers, as my legal team intends to let the public and the jurors know the whole truth and the fallacies of this manufactured charges. Another open letter, January of 2005. Hello, my name is Linda Carty, and I have been recruited by the Drug Enforcement Agency Houston since 1984 to work as a confidential informant on Agent CM unit. My employment involved everything from intelligence data, gathering, surveillance, and spying. What cops and sleazy DA agents did not publicly disclose is the fact that I was actively involved in the federal cases of several drug dealers who had been actively involved in perilous federal illegalities. I happen to know that the top culprit who had me set up for this wrongful crime, I am now on death row, has been brutally gunned down in his home along with 2 members of his immediate family, and it was the same murdered guy who borrowed my car after lying about his true intent of use and never returned the paid vehicle. Rather, that vehicle, a rent-a-car, was used in their plot to set me up for their crime. Now, I wasn't CM's most resourceful right arm for my beautiful smile only. I was Charlie's ears, eyes, and data source. The DEA and CM has conveniently abandoned me, lied on paper and in court about my employment, and the unsavory police officers and the unscrupulous prosecutors have deliberately, blatantly, and maliciously withheld favorable evidence, names, and the undeniable fact that I was actually working on a DEA case. Drug dealers who I feel as all evidence points in that direction made me find out who I worked for and decided to get rid of me. By the way, all my conversation with CM was not given to my attorneys. The videotape and the audio was not only edited, cut, it was spliced. Then CM quit the DEA when the law firm of Baker B entered my case. So did 2 other suspicious cops. Let's not talk about the DPS officer S lying outright and a judge who porously retired to ride her dirty deeds, cover-ups, and the vehement reprisal to remove the incompetent court-appointed attorney or to allow me time to retain the attorney, all private of my choice. Please, I am begging you to do the right thing, to come forward, clear my name, because after today I am going to advise my concerned friends to legally post a monetary reward of about $12,000 to smoke you out. In these few words, you are still floating. I will find you. Let me restate this sentence. I am going to find you. I am on to you now after 3 weeks or 15 days. I am going to expose you legally and publicly. Think about my legal advice to you. Come forward. I am not telling you what to do or how, but you know that I had not anything to do with this farce of a crime. Remember, your 15-day deadline begins today, date posted, and your conscience. I am someone's child, mother, sister, aunt, and friend. I am human too. You have a mere 12 days. I found your slimy slip-ups too. Yeah, cheap, mate. Delusional.
Yeah, I can't even understand it's like hard to even make sense of what she's actually saying.
Well, I think her mental state is deteriorating, and her her desperation to create this fiction
Mm-hmm.
is getting more and more obvious. She
Yeah.
begins typing all in caps. And somebody, for the love of God, please take the typewriter away. Okay? Because obviously when you look at her letters, and I'll post a link to the website, I mean, the ones that are in all caps, there are commas in all the wrong places. It's like, I, comma, am, comma, mad, comma, you, comma, because, comma,
That's
you,
weird too, because
comma, lied, comma.
usually people like, what do you call it? They exclude punctuation. They don't just add random punctuation. That's pretty funny.
God, oh, this is so random. Okay, so there's another long letter, February 22nd, 2007. And again, this talks about her mistreatment in prison and her legal papers, and actually complains about some of the conditions in prison, which I'm going to go ahead and list. I'm going to go ahead and list out. I'm forced to sleep for the last 2 years on a torn, holey, and leaky mattress, while Sergeant Bailey has repeatedly replaced her favorite gossip offender's mattress twice over yearly since on death row. My legal visits are scheduled for the morning, 5 hours of 8 a.m. till noon, knowingly that my attorneys were scheduled by Mountain View unit, so there should not be any logical denial of non-scheduling. There's no excuse other than to deviously sabotage my effectiveness during my legal visit, which I'm guessing she wants to visit with her attorneys in the afternoon and they won't let her.
All right.
Number 3, forcing Linda Carty to recreate outdoors during the extreme degrees of temperature during the winter months and the scorching summer months, even though TDCJ has regulative clauses written on procedural policies governing death row recreation, all of which Bailey has forced us to go outside in extreme cold temperatures and rain, heat, or we don't get our recreation of 2 hours as TDCJ is providing work-capable offenders due to our reclassification. Sergeant Bailey and other security officers continually choose to indulge in daily gossip slander regarding me, as there are certain officers in Sergeant Bailey who rather promote the hatred and the enmity and jealousy for me, so that my daily existence here would be wretched. When that ploy fails, I am written frivolous cases, so I be denied the ability to work and have any freedom other than a 23-hour lockdown status. There's a continual effort to promote antagonistic environments so that Sergeant Bailey and devious staff members could either force Huntsville to dismantle the work program and or to break my mentality stronghold on my life. Sergeant Bailey chose to maliciously circulate false implications with her verbal intonations that, rather than report the abusive mistreatments and the illegal tampering of my legal mail, the denial of my outdoor recreation during days of incremental weather, my torn and holy mattress, the verbal assault of curse words in front of other offenders, devised to publicly humiliate me and to intimidate me, and a cowering away from officially reporting her mistreatment, dishonestly shouldering me with unknown acts of other offenders to incite hatred, disharmony, and wrongful blame, to single Linda Carty out as the wrongful character and traits that are placed, the daily devious machinations through hostile verbal inferences during shift change, wrongly blaming me for other offenders' cunning in order to isolate and ostracize me with both the offenders here and staff. Boo-hoo.
She's really mad at Sergeant Bailey. We should have Sergeant Bailey on the show.
Yeah, I should be. I shouldn't say that name out loud because all and it's only identified as Sergeant Bailey. I don't know, I'm gonna skip 7 and 8 because they're just more wah wah. Regarding my legal case, there is a legal quote, all caps, huge breakthrough, and I will legally update you very shortly. They have been busted about the illegal pre-opening of my legal mail outside my physical presence. I have been blacklisted to the new warden, and it's the case of a new head honcho, but the same unscrupulous, the same unsavory supporting cast. Thus, the dirty dramatics continue, albeit the route of ignorance. May 10th, 2008. Here's another long letter. She complains about them taking away some expensive parchment paper that she bought to use. She has been targeted for a hit by certain officers, she says. And she claims that she was, oh no, this isn't the one. She again complains about her illegal mail, and she closes with, so I am writing to appeal to the Tom Joyner Show and News 1.com because a black innocent lady wrongfully charged, wrongfully sentenced, and wrongfully detained in prison, no matter my British nationality, so deserves to be fought hard for her legal freedom too.
Tom Joyner, I think I know. I think he's based in Dallas. He did or used to be, he'd do like a show in Dallas and Chicago. I think he'd fly in between the two and do like 2 shows a day. That was his shtick back in the like 90s or aughts.
Yeah. So that one is another one. Again, it's just more of the same old complaints. It's just, it's tiring. So then the next thing is, it's marked as media mail, but it's also a letter to someone named Petra. It appears that only pages 1 and 6 are available, but it seems to be pretty much a cohesive letter. It's dated November 4th, 2008. On the 1st of October, I learned through my attorneys that the DA of Houston and the Attorney General of Texas used a huge, ugly lie and deception to sabotage my legal relief with my current judge. In essence, the state flat out lied and had the inhumane gall to lie to a judge under oath to produce an honest report that states they didn't agree, nor is there any factual evidence that a court-approved motion was finalized in their presence by my former trial judge, Mr. Carroll Davies. For this judge, who I am very disappointed at hurting her enormous deceit by the state, I expected her legality, shrewdness, and not the naive of allowing the state to dupe her. All Judge Gilmore had to do was access the trial court's files and request the proof of Baker Bott's entrance by my trial judge to not only represent me as my appellate attorneys, but to file the supplemental writs, all highly legal in the state of Texas. I never trusted the state after all. They are the very same liars who concocted and machinated and coerced fictitious alleged co-defendants to spin huge and dishonest dramatical tales, non-happenings, courtroom lingo, and discrediting statements accusing me of such idiotic hearsays and illogical indulgences, just as they accused and lied upon my attorney's legal credibility in an agreement made outside court and in the then defunct district attorney's office with Chuck Rosenthal, DA, Roe Wilson, who flat out to this judge called Baker Bott's disillusioned liars, and this learned judge became a victim of these lies. What next am I going to be accused of calling this judge to, since it seems that anyone who is glib and dirty enough to distort, manipulate, and bamboozle a judge's sense of doing the right thing is saying to the state, you are in perjury's contempt of this federal court and impeach them all, and your latest deceitful play to sabotage Ms. Carty's legal relief does warrant nationwide outrage calls from the Black Caucus of America, namely Representatives Sheila Jackson Lee and the New York Times Senator Rodney Ellis, Steve Hardy radio jock, the British government and parliament, and my attorneys at Baker Botts. Now, this is what they're talking about. There was, on the day that findings of fact and conclusions of law were filed in the first state writ, a supplemental response to the state's response was filed on behalf of Carty, and it raised a lot of new issues. And when they went to federal court, Carty tried to pursue those new issues, but they weren't formally raised or disposed of in the state court, and therefore the federal court could not consider them. These became the basis of the return to state court for the second post-conviction writ, or the first successive post-conviction writ. But they tried to argue in federal court that there was an agreement between the state and Carty's attorneys to allow those additional matters to be considered in federal court. And there was no such agreement. And so that's what she's all got her panties in a wad over.
Well, that's a lot of people to write to. I mean, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, God rest her soul, she will not be the president of the local Mensa chapter. I think she's the one that she's not. That was another one. It was a guy from Atlanta that said that he was worried because Guam could tip over with the military equipment on the island, but she's not that. I forget what she said a few crazy things too. She barely has 2 brain cells to rub together.
Anyway, so okay. That's cute. I like that. So, and you know, it's also like a caucus that there's a single brain cell amongst them.
Yeah.
And you know, he doesn't have custody of the brain cell today.
Exactly.
All right. So, April 25th, 2011, she's writing a letter to a witness. The private investigators and my legal team are fully convinced now, all caps, through a major verbal disclosure of a strong person of legal interest, that the physical identification of the known murderer in crime will legally clear Linda Carty, me, all caps. If you choose to trust my private investigator or the attorney of your choice, a reporter of your choice to expose the DA's cover-up back then, I can be written at Fed Express or certified mail, preferably mail or by mail through jpay.com here. It is instantly received by me. And I think this is the worst thing is for the Texas Department of Corrections to give these MFers email. It really is. Even though you have to pay for it to email them.
You have to pay to email them?
Yeah, it's a website, jpay.com, and I haven't really investigated it, but you sign up for jpay.com and you pay an amount per email to email to different offenders, but you have to sign up through jpay, and I think they have to agree to receive communication from you. But you see it all the time for like Rodney Reed and Melissa Lucio and Linda Carty and different prisoners.
Right.
But yeah, I think they should just get their mail in the mail. U.S. Postal Service. Pony freaking Express. So next is a letter to Giselle, dated February 2012 and then renewed in May of 2012. I need to know what happened on the night you and your cohorts framed me for a stranger's murder. The murder left a crucial forensic big clue, and I need you to fill in the blanks. I need you to trust my contacts with the information you have, tips, leads, names, evidence. My private investigator will follow up, either though or through, or she put tough. Someone murdered a lady and framed me for it. I need your urgent help to save my life. The contact people on the outside are also at emails. And then she gives emails for her attorneys, Michael Goldberg and Catherine Brooker, and herself on death row at deathrowtexas.com. And another woman named Sheila Wasaki, who I guess is an investigator of some sort. It's signed Linda Carty Corona. P.S. Write me directly via jpay.com, and then she gives her prisoner number to search for, or to the above address. Another letter to Giselle dated May 22nd, 2013. All I want urgently are the, all caps, tips, leads, names, evidence, end caps, that my private investigator can follow through immediately, urgently, and clear my name of this wrongful crime I am framed with. My outside contacts you may trust with the necessary information are listed below. Since you are scared to physically trust anyone in person, my life is truly in danger. I don't want to die innocently for anyone else's crimes. And then she again gives the emails for Goldberg and Brooker and Wysocki, and adds a person by the name of Chris Scott. She also gives her email at Linda Carty at deathrow-texas.com. She has another open letter on, yes.
I mean, that's an email address. If your email address ends with at deathrowtexas.com, things are not going well. I mean, that is quite the email address.
Yeah. And I think you might you may not have to sign it. I might send this bitch an email.
I was gonna say,
Ask her if she wants to appear on my
this
show.
show.
Yeah,
As long
and
as she
then
doesn't
just
pull her
tear her
headphones out.
apart. No, I would not do that. So, and this is Giselle in 2013. Open letter, November 20th, 2013. Let's see, am I gonna? Oh yeah, because it's got some pretty funny stuff in it. The year has begun in the legal battle for my legal freedom, and the year has not begun. It's in November. Okay, the year is almost over. So again, she can't keep her life straight. It's like she's writing a newsletter, that she doesn't realize is going to go out immediately. There's a lot of evidence which clearly points to my total and complete innocence. It isn't that the authorities didn't know. It's more so, what are they hiding and what have they hidden and why? When it involves someone's life and the health of my mom and the welfare of my daughter and grandsons, then this does hurt. This is one of the letters that's also in all caps. And it may be one that has the weird commas, but I didn't do the commas like I should have. I can't believe that I had to lose 11 years of my life, the very existence and individuality, because some dirty cops and their bedfellows, the so-called accusers, chose to take the fallacious and deceptive road of blaming me falsely for the death of another person of whom I had never met nor developed a relationship of friendship. The victim of the crime was not even an acquaintance, much less a target of mine, and I had to trust the Lord to open the hearts of someone out there who'll see my innocence and want to help me find the culprits, since the state of Texas couldn't use honesty to put the real killers behind bars. I'm sorry. Linda's melodramatic. It's rubbing off on me.
With OJ finding the real killers.
My gender and ethnicity and nationality had a lot to do with the lack of equity. The state of Texas sued as a vice in order to falsely put me on death row. I kept telling all those within the district attorney's office that I was not in any way ever a part of the crime and the criminals, but they didn't listen because they felt my British government would never intercede and help and fight for me, a black woman of impoverished means, and the magnitude of the alleged crime and charges would bag me down in the forgotten abyss of misfits socially. Only God could force out the criminals and the real killers and the evidence and the witnesses and hand my PI and attorneys the proof of my complete innocence. I say, to God be all the glory for the wonderful and miraculous legal breakthroughs that he has given my attorneys, which at the time she's writing this letter, there's really nothing. They haven't even filed the next state writ. Then she talks about being away from her mother, who was fighting cancer. She says the witnesses come forward to the attorneys and the courts with the truth, and I want you all to put the most intense pressure on the British government and the USA, top Attorney General Honorable Mr. Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States of America, for exclamation points, Do so as soon as you read this letter. Encourage as many people to do the same as soon as can be, and swamp the BBC media and the Guardian newspapers in the UK to amp up the political and the public outrage and demand that the right be addressed and done, and get me out of here, please. And that's 6 exclamation points, or 5 exclamation points. It's a lot of. She's found the exclamation point button in this letter, and she's now going to use it.
Yeah, they must be free.
Somebody gave her a typewriter. My website is freelindacarty Facebook, and Twitter is the same too. 5 exclamation points. My desire is to have my legal liberty restored and the state of Texas apologize for the mess up they caused for the last 11 years of my life. The fight must have the support of all, and we have to make sure the USA president and the Congress does the right thing by upholding the Vienna Treaty Convention that has been denied me and has caused my wrongful illegal incarceration for all these years. Together we stand, and the foes will have to fold and do what is legally binding for all foreign nationals who are held in any penal system overseas, and the UK does not engage in the sentence. Therefore, I shouldn't be on death row either. Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, 5 exclamation points. Then she has a letter to her friends that by the time, and this is dated on February 27, 2015, and this is after the case was remanded. The first successive writ was remanded to the district court for a hearing. And so that but oh God, the false, I wish that her invoking the name of God would lead to a thunderbolt hitting her immediately, because she is, it's disgusting. I'm not even going to repeat. This is the February 27, 2015 letter, but let's just say Linda thinks that God has interceded on her behalf when she didn't even ask him to, and that she is his, she says princess, but I think she meant princess. She's God's own princess.
Wait, she's God's princess?
God's princess. Delusions of grandeur, people. Okay, delusions of grandeur.
I mean, that's just downright weird.
Yeah, and she, well, okay, I am gonna repeat. She's claiming God sent her a scripture, Isaiah 66 verse 24. And it says, I will answer Linda Carty before she legally even called to me, whilst Linda Carty is still talking about her legal needs. I will go ahead in the year 2015 and answer Linda Carty's prayers, all of them, and manifest all the legal desires of Linda, my princess. So Linda may know that I, the Lord, and her God, is the same God of her forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. I am who I am, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, and my Linda Carty's legal kinsman, Redeemer in the state of Texas, 2015. 6 exclamation points. So she puts there's a message on the website, April of 2017. Linda wants to thank you a lot on using the website to greatly help her case. She's been allowed DNA testing, and her lawyers have got all they wanted to get for her defense, expecting some action on her case in June. Well, in reality, she didn't get new DNA testing. There was a notice that there was a notice because they found errors in statistical calculations for mixtures from prior DNA kits that they used. And so they told anybody who had a DNA mixture that they could have the statistics recalculated. She wasn't getting DNA testing. She's never asked for DNA testing. How is she going to get something she didn't ask for? I guess God was going to just give it to her. Okay, so here we have the pigeon letter. Okay, this is the best part. The pigeon letter. First of all, let me tell you, The word mío in Spanish means mine.
Just tell me she calls a pigeon a nincompoop.
No, she doesn't. And it's I call it pigeon because it's half in English and half in Spanish. Or rather, it's in English with Spanish words peppered in, sprinkled, so to speak. But mío means mine, tú means you, 40 means 40, hijo means son.
And El Diablo means the devil.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Which
Jose
I did not,
Vasquez.
yeah. I figured nobody needed me to translate that one. Borrado means erase. Cuyas is either broken, deteriorated, or damaged. Casa is house. Dos is two. Sicarios or hitmen. Lardon may mean bite. Lardon is actually a French word, not a Spanish word, but she refers to somebody as la lardon. Perfecto means perfect. Muerto means dead. El means either he or the masculine pronoun, or the masculine definitive article. Masculine pronoun he, masculine definitive article el. And ella means they, non-gender. So this tipster was ahead of his time. And I'm just gonna make a comment first. This tipster letter was all in caps with odd commas sprinkled through. So keep that in mind. So it's dated 15 de diciembre, which is, I think December is spelled wrong. 2017. 15 means 15th. I don't know whether I don't recall from my Spanish class whether they just do number 15 December 2017, or whether they write out, 1 de Diciembre, whatever. I don't remember whether that's proper or not. It says Hola Senora, spelled with an extra R, Linda Carty, which it should be Linda Carty Corona. Senora Carty. Mio saw two in the Houston Chronicle, and Mio admired the way to handle the reporter and her questions. If two is worried about Mio coming back to be a problem, Linda, don't. I am not with the cartel anymore, not since to DEA Dallas. A word that doesn't make any sense. Ricardo Martinez, bust El Diablo, Jose Vasquez Jr., the same Z distributor two found out William Arvizo steal the money from, El Diablo 40 Miguel Angel Trevino, and then the number 40 appears in brackets throughout this letter for some dumb reason. And Hijo to know as Oscar put the word out to Borrado del Mapa, William, and anyone in William's circle, and any Arvizu FDR, the stolen money William had hidden in his casa. Two, Linda saw the dinero William had at the casa, and William heard that 40 was looking for the dinero through his Cuyas and Eagle Pass. 40, Miguel Angel Trevino, I think it's Trevino Morales, had sent dos sicarios to Houston, and they were looking for vengeance on un la Lardon and his family, nombre Raimundo Cabreras. So I think he's even trying to say Raimundo, the Cabreras isn't right. What is Raimundo's real last name? This suddenly dawned on me. Hang on a second. Let's see. Raimundo. Oh, what is his name? Cabrera. Not Cabreras. Cabrera. So she's even trying to say that there was a hit on Raimundo Cabrera.
And that's her husband or common
No,
law?
that's Joanna's husband.
Joanna's husband.
Yeah. Okay. That just jumped out at me as I was reading it. I'm like, wait a second. So perfecto crime taking trademark before Barato del Mapa Frogs, William Arvisu hired Dosica to get to Houston and settle you, Linda, setting two up with the cover. Two, the details. Two, in the next letter, be careful who to trust in the policia. Make sure to take care of this and get it to the right people. Look for TOD chameleons. Mio sending to these letters con instructions not to give them to law enforcement unless to know for certain. Johnny Lindsay, muerta Linda, true no one, unless it is to DEA hijo. Okay, so there's a couple other words I didn't put in the translations. So casa is house. So he's saying, let me read this. Let me read this, translating some of those Spanish words to English. He's saying mio, which is mine, instead of yo, which is I. So mine saw you in the Houston Chronicle, and mine admire the way you handled the reporter and her questions. If you is worried about mine coming back to be a problem, Linda, don't. I am not with the cartel anymore, not since your DEA Dallas something Ricardo Martinez bust El Diablo Jose Vasquez Jr., the same Z distributor you found out William Araviso steal the money from. El Diablo 40 Miguel Angel Trevino and 40's son, as Oscar put the word out to erase Del Mapa William and anyone in William's circle and any Arvisu. FDR, the stolen money William had hidden in his house. Linda saw the money, Dinero's money, William had at the house, and William heard that 40 was looking for the money through his broken, damaged, deteriorated in Eagle Pass, had sent Miguel Trevino had sent two hitmen to Houston, and they were looking for vengeance on La Lardone, which is French, and his family members, family named Raimundo Cabrelas. Perfect crime, taking trademark before erase Del Mapa Frogs, William Arviso, hired to Sika, which I'm not sure what that means, to get to Houston and settle you, Linda, setting you up with the cover. You have the details in the next letter. Be careful who you trust in the police. Make sure to take care of this and get it to the right people. Look for a chameleon. Mind sending you these letters with instructions not to give them to law enforcement unless you know for certain. Johnny Lindsay, dead Linda, true no one, probably meant trust no one, unless it is your DEA, unless it is your DEA son. And it's signed L.E.A. Mateo, which is either the or he, and they, Mateo. I think she thinks Mr. and Ms. I firmly believe that Linda wrote this letter because it's got the odd punctuation, the odd commas. So anyway, and we're kind of down in the weeds here. So we're gonna go. Okay, we're gonna stop with the letters because the letters are getting old, right?
Yeah, they're a little crazy. Yeah, she's definitely kookadoodle.
Kookadoodle, yeah, that's one way of putting it. So yeah, she claims that a tipster has provided her a picture of the person, and it shows a black male. I don't know what Guillermo Arvisu looked like. Whether he was a black male or a Hispanic male or what. So And she writes to the tipster again through 2019, 2020, 2021, continuing to spread this fiction that the real killers are moments away from being apprehended and she's being let out of prison.
Did anybody ever find out,
now.
like, was the tipster a real person, or was that like one of her family members?
No, I believe personally, I believe because the letter is all caps with the odd commas and it's with poorly it's like the poorly written Spanish letter that Swearingen tried to write in his case, where he took a Spanish to English dictionary and he tried literal translation. And so she thinks mio means me. So she didn't even bother to look it up. I mean, maybe these are the Spanish words she knows, but she doesn't really know them that well because she doesn't know what they really mean. Because mio is mine, not me or I. But I think she wrote it. I think she wrote it. She started telling the RVC story in 2005. She wrote it to try and say, and it's got the same nonsensical details of her complaints about her mail and her food and her case and the case against her and the prosecution and her legal troubles. So she continues through 21, keeping up this fiction, and the website helps her keeping up this fiction that the real killers are, moments away from being caught. She even writes to the tipster and says, I'm on to you. I'm going to find you. And so, and giving her followers the idea that she knows exactly who the tipster is and he's going to be identified and she's going to be out of prison soon. So, all right. So we're going to go through, and I'm just going to skip over the procedural history a little bit. She was convicted of capital murder on February 19th, 2002. She was sentenced to death on February 21st, 2002, with jury finding yes to special issues 1 and 2 and no to the special issue question regarding mitigating circumstances. Her direct appeal, her conviction and sentence were affirmed. All 11 points of error were overruled. Her first state writ was decided on March 2nd, 2005, based upon the trial court's findings and conclusions and our own review. The relief sought is denied. And basically, the trial court's finding conclusions was that she didn't prove any of her allegations, or that any of the things she claimed rendered her trial unfair. She didn't prove that that was the case. Federal habeas was denied on September 30th, 2008, after an exhaustive review of petitioner's grounds for relief. That was appealed to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they affirmed, issuing a revised opinion on October 15th, 2009. Her second state writ
weird.
was...
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
I was saying it's so weird. It's just very strange.
All right. Her first successive state writ was decided on February 7th, 2018. Relief on the applicant's 3 claims was denied, where her right to due process was not violated by the state on presenting witness testimony. In the other 3 claims, the applicant failed to satisfy the requirements of Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, annotated Article 11.071, Section 5A, in contending that her state and federal constitutional rights to due process were violated. Her motion to remand was also denied, and her writ to the United States Supreme Court was denied on November 13th, 2018. Now, she filed a second successive state post-conviction writ in the 177th District Court of Harris County under docket number 877-592B. That was forwarded to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, and it was given docket number WR-61055-3. The trial court judge was Honorable Robert Johnson.
And is she still writing all these people crazy letters too, or is this
Yeah,
just
she
that
has a
one?
guy named Luke Hayden Charles, who I think is in Wales. He wrote a letter to Judge Johnson on her behalf, which included the tipster letter. She sent the tipster letter to Petra, who was a person she had been writing to about, quote, new evidence and having information about her case. And, Petra was supposedly an accomplice. But yeah, so during this time, people are still writing, but the only actual legal remedy she has is the state post-conviction writ, which she raised several claims for relief, including all related to alleged failure to disclose a deal with Zebediah Coombe, which she had tried to raise in her first successive claim, and the court said, no, you didn't bring it in. It's not before the court. No. And so then she filed the claim alleging failure to disclose a deal with Coombe, failure to correct false testimony about the lack of a deal with Coombe, and that went to the Court of Criminal Appeals. That was forwarded on the 20th of February, 2018, and the state attorney acknowledged receipt but never responded. And on August 22nd, 2018, the Court of Criminal Appeals found that applicant presents 4 allegations in the instant application. She claims in claims A and B that the state presented false and misleading testimony concerning the existence of deals with Zebediah Coombe and failed to disclose impeachment and exculpatory evidence in violation of Brady versus Maryland. She complains in claims C and D and that the cumulative impact of the constitutional errors in her proceedings violated her right to due process and freedom from cruel and unusual punishment under the federal constitution and robbed her of due course of law under the state constitution. We have reviewed the application and find that applicant has failed to satisfy the requirements of Article 11.071, Section 5A. Accordingly, we dismiss the application as an abuse of the writ without considering the merits of the claims. And again, she never filed this tipster claim or anything. So then she went to the federal court. She went back to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal and tried to file a successive federal claim. She was represented in that by Catherine Booker and Michael Goldberg. The state was represented by Catherine Hayes, an assistant attorney general. It was before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, assigned docket number 19-20574. She alleged that newly discovered evidence satisfies the standard for successive habeas review. Constitutional violations raised here could not have been discovered previously through the exercise of due diligence, and but for the constitutional violations raised in her proposed application, no reasonable jury would have found her guilty of capital murder. And the issues she was trying to raise, the grounds she was trying to raise, were that her right to due process was violated when the state presented false and misleading testimony at trial in violation of her rights to due process under Giglio, and that was related to cause of death, witness coercion for false testimony, all the things she raised in her second and third, or her first and second successive state writs.
Now, is she doing all these on her own, or is Baker Botts?
No, Baker Botts is entirely on board for her.
Got it.
The state filed an opposition, and it argued against every one of her alleged grounds. And I'm not going to go into that. Their argument came down to Carty's motion should be denied because her claims are time barred. So she knew about the alleged claims and delayed filing a motion for successive writ. So that was basically their
Got it.
some of it, or that she, and basically the state's in a pretty good position. What the state court finds, the prosecution can use to argue against the writ. If she didn't meet the especially on Coombe, to even have the allegation reviewed, and the writ was dismissed as an abuse, then she can't raise it in a successive federal claim. On August 25th, 2020, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals held that petitioner was not entitled to file a successive habeas petition in the district court to bring several claims alleging that the prosecution engaged in misconduct by suppressing material evidence and by knowingly presenting false testimony, because petitioner failed to make the required prima facie showing that the new evidence supporting those claims could not have been discovered through the exercise of due diligence prior to her previous federal habeas petition. So the motion for authorization to file successive habeas petition was denied. The mandate issued on August 25th, 2020. She did not appeal that to the U.S. Supreme Court, so that decision became final on August 25th, 2020. She then went back to the U.S. District Court of Appeal and filed a motion for appointment of co-counsel, seeking appointment of the Federal Community Defender's Office of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania for clemency proceeding, because none of the attorneys at Baker Botts has experienced an end-stage capital clemency proceedings. She also needs the assistance of the FCDO's capital habeas unit, which specializes in capital habeas corpus litigation under 28 U.S.C. 2254. They've been appointed to represent other litigants in the district courts in Texas. That the capital post-conviction litigation requires specialized knowledge and experience. And I want to know why they didn't seek to have this done in 2006 when she was in her first round of federal habeas claims. But, maybe they didn't think of it. Because that's what a lot of post-conviction litigation is you find a little kernel and somebody else didn't think of how to exploit that little kernel, so you exploit that kernel,
Right.
Capital habeas units in northern and western districts of Texas have both advised that they are not in a position to accept an appointment in this case at this time, and the federal defender for the southern district of Texas supports the appointment of the FCDO, and Carty has agreed to this appointment. An order was entered granting that appointment on June 17, 2024, and a notice of appearance was filed by the attorney with the FCDO on behalf of Carty on July 2nd, 2024. Now, from what I understand, and I haven't done this because I've forgotten, but Kim Ogg actually lost her seat. However, the district attorney who replaced her is equally progressive, as I understand it. I will try to have more information on that. Maybe I'll open the show.
Is that in Harris County?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a mess down there.
And it doesn't look like it's going to be better. So I don't expect that there will be anything done until she has an actual date. Unless it's something that is time sensitive. In other words, if this, if they have a tipster that bears fruit, they need to bring it before the courts within a certain period of time. If they try to bring the Arvisu stuff, the pigeon letter, if they try to bring any of that stuff before the court, they're going to lose because it's been 7 years since Carty got that first letter. And it's been 6 years since she sent it to other people and, her legal team got it. So she's not likely to, and she's not likely to prevail on that because it's hearsay. Unless that person is going to come testify to what he has direct knowledge of. And a lot of it is hearsay of, well, he hired hitmen to come do this. It's not like I was the hitman. It's not like I was with William Arvisu, who she didn't name for Dr. Jerome Brown. She named Carlos Aviso. And I think she saw, after her conviction, I think she saw something about William Arvizu and decided to say, oh, it was William Arvizu, not Carlos Aviso. So anyway, so that's that. I have just two more little pieces of miscellaneous information, and then we're done with Linda Carty. Thank you, Jesus. And on November 9th, 2016, the state filed disclosure notices pursuant to Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 39.14H and K. The state provided potentially, italicized, exculpatory, impeaching, or mitigating information to Carty. The state did not concede that the information fit the precepts of Brady versus Maryland and reserved the right to litigate the admissibility of such information. The following information was what was disclosed. 2 disclosures regarding the HPD's latent print lab, including flaws uncovered during an audit of prior examinations and flaws uncovered during performance evaluations of some personnel. They also disclosed a DUI conviction for an HPD officer who was involved in the Carty investigation, and they disclosed a misdemeanor assault conviction for another officer who had been involved in the investigation. And then on March 21st, 2017, a Brady notice DNA recalculation letter was provided to Carty, advising her of the need to recalculate statistical information regarding DNA mixture evidence, and advising her that if her case involved DNA mixture evidence, which it didn't, she could have submitted for recalculation with a form provided by the DA with the letter. So that was basically it. So she did get DNA testing. She got a letter saying if there was mixture DNA used, then she could have it re-examined and have it recalculated. Although most of the recalculations really didn't change anything as far as guilt of the people originally convicted. So,
Gotcha.
So that is Linda Carty in a nutshell. I'm sorry I went into the weeds with those letters, but I'll provide a link to that website for people to check out.
Yeah,
when I
that'd be
post the
interesting.
show. Yeah, so that is Linda Carty. She's awaiting execution on Texas death row. She has exhausted all of her appeals.
But she doesn't have
No, she doesn't have a date.
She doesn't.
That's the really weird thing, because when Ogg set Robert Fratta's date, she could have set Price, Guidry, Carty, and Charles Thompson, because all of them have exhausted appeals.
Right.
So I don't know why she didn't. So yeah, she's just waiting, and like I said, I don't know whether this new DA is going to start setting dates for people who have exhausted appeals or not. But if we talk to oh gosh, I'm so sorry, his name's escaping me. Our bail reform guy.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about, but I'm blanking on his name.
I am so sorry. I don't know what is going on with my brain right now, because I am not remembering things that I would usually have absolutely no problem remembering. Anyway, we may schedule a show with him to see, look an update on the state of Harris County criminal justice.
Yeah, I think it's been a mess.
Yeah.
It would be good to get an update.
So, all right. Well, I think that's it for today. You have any final thoughts? Or
no, it's an interesting case. I had not heard of this one before, but yeah, she's definitely a little bit of an interesting character. I mean, all these people are, but yeah, she's a little bit crazy.
A little bit crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fair enough.
You're being generous. Well, I know, and I think it's delusions of grandeur and persecution. And she's such a con artist.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you for listening to Based in Fact, a true crime podcast with Lisa O'Brien and Kyle Evans. If you like the show and want to know more, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Facebook, or follow me on Twitter at O'BrienLN. Kyle and I will return in 2 weeks for episode 14, State of Maryland versus Adnan Syed. Rob Chadwick will join us for a look at the latest on the Syed case, including the 2021 sham motion to vacate proceedings and the reinstatement of Syed's conviction for the January 1990 murder of Hae-Min Lee by the Maryland Court of Appeals and, most recently, the Maryland Supreme Court. Until then, have a great 2 weeks and stay safe.